Well, hello, Roben-Marie, good friend of mine and artist extraordinaire. Welcome to my very first interview for the Made Remarkable podcast. Now that we've changed from Unfold to Made Remarkable, we're all in on the artist entrepreneur journey. So why don't you give us a little introduction?
All right. Thank you again so much for inviting me and asking me to be a part of this podcast. I'm really excited. I think this topic is so important for us to share our experiences with others that are coming up in their journey, to give them advice and tips and encouragement, because I think it's super important. So thank you again for having me. What do I share? My goodness, I've been in business for a long time. So the basic, I'm a mixed media artist. I love to share my love of art. I over the years have had product lines. I have had programs where I've helped other artists with the technology side of things. I love all things creative, all things related to art. So I guess I'm multi-passionate about all kinds of things, much like you.
Mhm.
We get these great ideas and then we're like, oh, like kind of shiny object syndrome. But personally, I live in Florida and I lived here for quite a few years. I'm married. I have my husband and I've been married for 33 years. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and thank you for asking me. So yeah, thank you.
So thrilled to have you here. Now, Roben-Marie and I have been friends for quite a long time now. The very first time that we connected was when I was running my membership, True Colors, and I invited you to be a guest there.
Yep.
And since then, we've just struck up a lovely relationship through, thank goodness, the magic of Zoom to be able
Yes.
to meet from time to time and just help each other with our businesses. And it's amazing, like how many changes you and I have both had. I think I asked you in probably was 2019 to be a guest, and we've been kind of on this path side by side, like back and forth the whole time. So when did you start working for yourself without, that big dream that people have is to let the corporate job go, let the 9 to 5 go and start working for yourself? Let's go
Yeah.
back a little in history.
Yeah, we're going to go back a ways because my husband's job allowed us to move a bit. And so each time we moved, I had to find a job or do something. I had to, use my skills, and my skills were in marketing and advertising. And I say marketing loosely because you're definitely more of a marketing expert than me, but I worked in public relations primarily. And that was a creative field. So his job moved us. And when we moved to North Carolina in 1994, I met someone who owned an advertising agency, and they said, look, we don't want to hire you. We want you to work freelance for us. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. What does that mean exactly? And so I had to buy a computer, I had to figure it all out, and I started working for myself. So technically, that was sort of the first step in that journey. It wasn't art related necessarily, but it gave me a taste of working for myself. And I knew that I was suited for it, and that's what I wanted. And so then when we left and we moved to Florida back again, I was like, okay, what can I do to make this a reality for me here? And I really wanted to do something creative. So back then, scrapbooking, stamping, all of that was very popular. It was like 1998, 1999.
Yep.
So it was like, all right, well, I'm going to explore that option because a lot of that was new. The mixed media world was very new to me then. And that's really where it started. It was like, well, I'm going to sell stamps. I'm going to do scrapbooking. And it kind of, that was the beginning and the entry into that journey of working for myself. So that was the entry point. It's changed a lot since then, but that was really the entry point for me.
And you and I have a very similar start in that. Well, I did do art before when I was in high school in my early 20s, but my entry into this whole world of online was through scrapbooking and stamping as well. It was a big, huge thing, and it's transitioned more into mixed
Oh,
media
yeah.
and art journaling since then. But it's been an amazing journey to just kind of like open up doors of possibility. I remember those first forums that we'd hang out long before Facebook was really a thing. It's like
Yahoo.
we spent all of our time meeting up with other artists and sharing our pages or our ideas. And so I think that was like a real early born love of online community for me. And
Yep.
it opened up doors for you to be able to do actually selling physical products
Yeah,
then.
absolutely. Because we didn't have back then Instagram, and
You know,
Facebook was primarily a tool to find your high school friends. It wasn't
right.
what it is today. We didn't have groups. We didn't have any of that. In fact, we had Flickr to share photos, and we had the Yahoo groups to kind of have that. And I mean, it has changed so much. It's like I laugh. I think, wow, I'm so old. It's like when you talk about your childhood, and you're like, oh, I remember the day when. Well, it's like that for us in this industry. It's like, well, I remember when. And it's like they're
Well,
like,
20 years ago was a long time ago for all of this industry.
it really is. And I mean, I remember getting excited going to Michael's to find a few rubber stamps and some stickers. Like that was like a
I know.
thrill. And I mean, things have just changed so much, and it's awesome because the opportunities are so great, not just with the art and what's out there, but with the technology to be able to communicate and share and have community with each other. So it's changed a lot over the years.
Extraordinarily so, especially the way that we connect with the customer, the way that we are able to make really innovative ideas for our offerings. When was the first time you went online as a business to sell something? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it started with my blog and my website. And the reason I say that is because I love the technology side of things. And I've always been somebody who's been like, I wonder how that works and I want to figure that out. So I remember seeing, I think it was a blogger blog or maybe a typepad. And I remember, I don't even remember whose it was, but I remember seeing it and thought, oh, I don't know what this blog thing is, but I want one. And so that was like, I want this. I don't know what to do with it, but I want this. And at that time, I was teaching some in-person classes. I was in Miami at the time. And I remember thinking, I'm going to document this. And so I remember I'm going to take photographs and I'm going to post this on a blog. And I'm going to write about it. And I had developed a stamp company, a rubber stamp company. So during that period of time, I had to also figure out how I was going to sell those. And there wasn't the Shopify's and the vehicles to do that. It was basically go and create a PayPal button, put it on a website, every single product. It was insane.
Either that or be a web developer and
exactly
how to do HTML, right?
Exactly.
What was the name of that first blog?
It's my site is what it was. Oh, my first blog was Typepad, but It's My Site was where I put all the buttons on to sell.
Oh, no. What was the name you chose to name it?
Oh, it was called Every Life Has a Story. That was my very beginning, was like, that's what I started with. And
I love it.
I had no idea what I was going to do with it. I just knew I wanted one. So,
but I did too. I started a blog too way back then, and I called it My Life with Monkeys because my kids, 3 little kids, you know.
I love it. But that was how we connected, and
right.
Still following, and a lot of them are still following me. The ones we had our list, and every morning we'd go in and we check and see, what are you doing? What's up? A lot of what we do on Instagram now with our captions and our stories is what we did in blog posts back then.
Right.
Like, oh, going on vacation, here's where we went, or here's what I'm working on. And so we were able to connect and keep up with each other through that medium. Now it's so different, you know, but
so different. Do you still blog?
I do. It's different though. It's not the same now as it was before. Like I'm not a long form writer. So in fact, it's one of those things that's well known. If you know me, you know that writing is not my favorite thing to do. I don't feel very confident with it. So it's like, I'd rather not do writing, but it's just different. It's not the same. I don't blog the same. So when you think of a traditional blog, a lot of that was long form writing. It was a lot of sharing, and more so now it's just, here's some projects I'm working on. Here's a link, you know, a video tutorial or things like that. Just to keep inside Google, the SEO.
Right. Update something new, updating on your website on a regular basis, SEO, and then something to pin on Pinterest.
Exactly. Driving people back to your blog. And really that worked because Pinterest is the top driver of people to my website. But I've been focused on Pinterest for a long time. And so and having that content and having that update brings people over there. So
right. Yeah. Amazing. I know Pinterest has been around for me longer than I've been using Instagram. And I do know that it's a long game with Pinterest. I still have pins from, 8 years ago that are leading people to my website. How weird is that?
Absolutely.
So you got this product line up and running, rubber stamps and whatnot. And I think you ran it all the way until the end of the 2010s, right? Yeah, how long were you doing that?
I started that company in 2004. It was roughly 2004. And the way that this started, and I love sharing this story because it shows that if you have an idea, sometimes you just have to roll with it and just give it a chance. So I was teaching locally at a rubber stamp store. It was my early days of just starting to teach in person. A store opened up and I was teaching there. Very basic, making cards, things that would be attractive to her customers. And she had a lot of rubber stamps. She was a stamp company or store. So I was ordering stamps to use in the projects. And I remember we were in the back room and I was looking through all the catalogs because everything was by book. And I remember thinking, said out loud, I know, a book, really, we had a catalog.
Remember those catalogs?
So I remember there was a friend of ours in there and I said, if I just made my own stamps, I could use the ones, I'd be using things that I like. And she said, yeah, you should do that. And I'm like, maybe I should start a rubber stamp company. So I asked my husband, I said, what do you think of this idea? And he said, well, how much is it going to cost? I said, well, I'm not really sure, but in what little research I've done, I think, I don't know, maybe $600 or $700 just to kind of get it off the ground. He's like, do it, go for it. And that's how it started. It was called Paper Bag Studios. And it just grew from there. So that's kind of how it started. Yeah. And I had no idea the massive growth that we'd have. And I was teaching in person a lot back then because, again, limited internet-ish. And I
Right.
was using the stamps. I was selling them at little like the vendor shows wherever we went. And then my name was getting, then we started selling wholesale, and we sold all over the world, really. And it just kept growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger. And so that's kind of how that started, that part of that part of my business. Yeah.
You were one of the first of us to end up online teaching.
Mm.
I mean, you've been doing it longer than most people I know. When was the very first time you recorded something and put it online as a course?
Yeah, and I remember the course, I remember the circumstance, and it happened, I think, I forget what summer it was, but I remember I'd been traveling a lot. Like, I was teaching at retreats and stores, and my husband was home working a full-time job. We manufactured the stamps, and it was like gangbusters that summer. And he said to me, "I really need you home more because I can't do this with my job and you not
So
here
he
and all."
was actually helping you like pack
Oh
up
yeah.
and ship?
Oh yeah. He helped me manufacture stamp. I mean, it was like his little part-time job. So I said, okay, I have to make some changes. But then I'm like, but I need to still be able to teach and have that part of my business. So I need to teach online. I'm gonna have to put this stuff online somehow. So I remember the first class I did was called, it was the Urban Journal. I have since updated it. And I filmed it in my dining room with a handy cam. Those have little cassettes for those of you that don't know what a handy cam is. It's a little little tiny, you put a little cassette in it and yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, so it was long before the
Yeah,
iPhone.
we didn't have memory cards, no. And so at least I don't think we did, or I didn't have a very fancy camera. And I had a ladder that I set up behind me, a big huge ladder, and it had the boom stand. Oh, it was just crazy how I had it all set up. And so I recorded it, and I'm trying to think what platform I used for that, because I actually was using Teachable before they were Teachable, that a course delivery platform for those of you that aren't familiar, and they were called something totally different. So I remember thinking, how am I going to deliver this class? Because there weren't a lot of options out there. And so that was the first class that I did. And
What year was it? Do you
I
remember?
think it was 2005. So it was like right in 2005,
What?
2006.
That's why I said
Yeah.
for the first I remember.
It's like,
Yeah.
how do I do this? I got to figure out a way to make this happen. So again, it was a lot of researching, figuring things out, and there just weren't a lot of options out there I mean, there's so many platforms out there now and so many ways that you can do it. But that's part of the challenge. I love that part of the challenge of running a business. It's like, all right, here's my vision. How do I execute this? How do I make this happen? And again, I think I put it on Teachable when it wasn't called Teachable. I think that's how I actually delivered it, because that was like the early days of kind of people starting to, and I did a lot of research to try to figure out, well, how do I want to make this happen? But oh my goodness, I'm so glad we have better video tools now than we did
So
then.
like almost everything I use my phone to record
Oh,
now.
same
I know
here.
that people are like, oh, I have fancy cameras. I'm like, my phone
Mhm.
seems to do fine. And then it just uploads right from my phone to where I need it
Oh
to
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, and the options of like starting a business now is easier than it's ever been before. You need so little money to start it going. It's just get that idea and execute and
Exactly.
keep going, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's like 2 decades of a beautiful, I don't know if I want to call it a roller coaster, but it's been a train ride, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Trying different things
Yep.
from physical products, selling your own art,
Yep.
teaching, and in rudimentary ways with an old camcorder and a
Sure.
videotape,
Yep. Yep.
all the way up to deciding that. So this is the part that I really love when my listeners and creatives out there can see that there are so many ways to build a beautiful business,
Right.
that there's whether it's a product base or it's teaching how to make art, or in your case you started because you love tech and because you have such a great history of PR and technology, you started a membership called Makers Tech U. So rather than teaching people how to make art, you were teaching artists how to use the technology that's available to them.
Right.
Not how to sell their business, not necessarily marketing skills, but how to use Squarespace, how to use Pinterest, how to make reels simply in Canva. These are all things that you've been teaching for how many years now? Like, I think you
I
started it.
started that in 2018 with a founding members group, and then we launched it to everyone in the January of 2019. So 4 years, 4.5 years.
4 years.
And there was a big transition in there because I had the stamp company. I then moved into creating products from my art. I was doing stickers and papers and cards, and I had that whole product line. And it really got to a point where I felt like I wasn't able to be creative as much as I had been. And I just was ready for a change. And I think it's important to even voice that you're not stuck with something that you start in a business, if you decide you want to change it or evolve or move, then do it, because you really need to have your heart into it. And it was a hard decision because we had built such a great customer base, and I knew there would be people that were disappointed, but when I was ready, I knew I was ready. And I wanted to start helping other artists and creatives because I was doing that already kind of with my friends on the side. And I felt like there was a gap there. There was something missing. People could tell you what you needed, but then there was nowhere to go to figure out how to do it. And so that's when I decided I'm going to help multiple people through a membership and help them with that technology. And so that was in 2018 that I made that transition into still teaching online courses, still teaching in person, but that was kind of on the, in parallel to what I was doing with Makers Tech.
Yeah. But that's approximately when you shut down your paper bag studios, right?
Yes, it was, I did everything. My husband was very disappointed, I have to say. He's like, well, I just do it. And I'm like, no, we're done.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And so those two components and I felt like I was moving in a direction, I was too far down the road of being a retailer. And I was spending so much time shipping, producing, that I just didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to move away from being a retailer and be doing the creative side of things. So yeah.
I remember when you closed down that product line, and what you had said really kind of sparked something in me, because this was when I was first 2017, 2018 was about when I started putting online courses out myself, way after you. The OG in online video courses, that you had said maybe only about 20% of your income was coming from that product line versus 80% of your income was coming from the online courses.
That's correct. Yeah.
And then also just where the flip was, about 80% of your efforts had to go into the physical product versus
That's
20%
right.
of your efforts going towards your online courses.
No,
And so that was something that really stuck in my head, because I've felt that a lot over the years, like selling physical products, you can do it very successfully, but when you look at how much energy and where your satisfaction is, and what,
right.
the nice thing about digital products, like an online course or anything else like that, that's repeatable, like the income potential is greater because you don't have to do an exchange for an object versus just that exchange of
Right.
energy
Yeah, because
information.
Energy and time, because you only have so much time. And so that said, though, we also made the conscious decision that we didn't want to hire and bring in and grow a business where we had staff. Now, if we had chosen that path, we would have been able to perhaps keep that side running, but that was something we chose not to. I wanted to stay small. I wanted it just to be me, because I didn't want, all that was going to do was add more to the plate of now managing and running
Right.
in a different way. And so we chose that it had to be one or the other, because we did not want to go down the path of building a business where we had staff and then we did everything out of our home. I didn't want to have a location and a warehouse and all that stuff. So that was a decision that we made as well, to keep it small to where it was just me and him when he needed to help me, so that I didn't have to deal with any of that. And I knew that I would just be sucked into that and be focusing all my attention on running a business in that way. So
Yeah. I can understand that completely. I mean, I have a phobia of having to ship my artwork, which is why I haven't put it up for sale in like a year. I'm like, oh, I think it's probably time. But I do understand that, though. I know people where that's all they focus their energy, and they do wonderfully with it. So it's being really aware of your own heart's desire and your energy and what you're capable of, and what's inspiring you to move down a different direction. And speaking of that, it seems like things have come full circle and you're ready to make another big change. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and why?
Yeah, and this is all very, very recent. I feel like I've been since I started Makers Tech U, I knew going in that it would probably be something that would be difficult to maintain really long term. And the reason for that is technology changes so rapidly that, unlike creating an online art course that stays the same. People access it, they take the course, you create another one. With the technology, there's a constant need to update. It's almost like every week there's another app, another software that's got an update and something's changed. So it's a constant. I love Makers Tech U, and I've loved helping other creatives build their websites and all the things, but it is labor intensive. And I think I was just reaching that point where it's like, okay, we're at a crossroads here now where things have to be completely updated, like almost the entire membership. There's just way too many things that have changed. Or am I being pulled in another direction? And I think it's important to listen to yourself. And I have a hard time because I don't want to disappoint anyone. And I know that people are counting on me. So it makes it hard, to make that. But I know I have to do what I feel I'm being called to do. And one thing that has been taken the back seat is creative time. It's art. It's being in there. I mean, I was creating courses. I mean, it's been, sometimes I'll go a year because it's just, I can't focus on that and I'm not having the time to do it. So, and I say that, but I suppose if I really buckle down, I could make the time, but creativity comes when creativity comes. And if you can't capture it in that moment, sometimes it gets lost. Like you can't force yourself to be creative. I know everyone listening who's a creative knows that. And so if those moments pass by and they're lost, then it's almost like I got to wait for it to come back again. So I,
Especially when you're so like that. I know what that pressure is. There are so many tasks that need to be accomplished with a membership. It is a completely different beast than courses. And you and I have discussed this many times because I had a membership and I ran it for almost 3 years. And I hit my breaking point in 2020. And I was like, this isn't serving me the way I want to. I felt like I was on this hamster wheel always. And a lot of that has to do with the systems you put in place. Did you decide to create the right kind of membership? You know, and I didn't have all of that in place. I know more now and I could probably handle a membership now, but you have to be very thoughtful of that because you're like you said, your energy, your desires, your focus can change over the years, and listening to that is imperative for building a business. There's a difference between being flighty and switching back and forth too often and giving up too soon versus you've been in it for like 4 or 5 years now. It's run its course. You realize what you were capable of, and it's come to that point where it's like, I have a fork in the road. I have to choose one way or another.
Right.
And moving forward would mean that I'd have to redo everything.
Yeah.
And is it worth it? Do I have enough customers to even warrant that kind of action? And also when your heart starts lighting up with this and you hear this calling and your customers, you know, all your creative customers are like, we want more of you, Roben-Marie. We want more art courses. I think that there are times where it's really important to pivot and you're at that like really big junction again in your career.
Yeah. And it was like that in 2018 when I was like, I knew when I reached the point, I need to no longer do the stamp company and the product line, and I need to refocus. We've talked about this so many times privately. Here's where I'm at. And like you said, you had made a good point, not being flighty and going, oh, I'm going here and going there, but to be really intentional about making something work. But if you reach that point where it's like, all right, my heart's being pulled in another direction and I need to honor that because that's where I feel my passion is. And I'm in there again. And that's okay, because when you're in business, things do change. And I just don't feel like I ever want to be stuck in a business, running a business that I'm like, well, I started it, so now I have to continue it until, I don't know, until I die. It just, I don't want to do that because it's not going to work anyway. And I think, and I want to say this too, because we're all of those of you that are listening, and even Kellee and I, although we're close in age, is that we're all in different seasons of our life. And my season changed a lot in 2016 when my husband retired. So he's been retired a long time and I'm still working. And so I want to cut back a little, but still run my business. But I have to figure out, what does that look like in the season that I'm in now? Because I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I don't even have the same energy level I had 10 years ago. So I think those are things, is just being intentional about how you're feeling, where you are, and being able, and I still want to run a business. I want to work. I love working, but where is that taking me now? And I have put creating and art on the back burner, so to speak, where I'm just craving being in the studio and creating in all kinds of ways, not just for the business, but just for me personally. There's things I want to explore that I feel like, well, it's not really going to benefit the business, and you need to commit this time because you've built this, you need to continue with this. And so I think it's been an internal battle over the last few months. It's almost like it just suddenly hit me one day. And I was like, okay, listen to what's happening. And when I really analyzed it and listened, that's when I realized, okay, you have to make a decision. Like you said, there's this fork now. It's this or it's this. And I just had to make that decision. So yeah.
It can be a big battle too in the entrepreneur's heart and mind, because I know that every time I've come up against that fork in the road, and I'm here again, personally, I'm at that fork in the road. Do I go all in here? Do I go in all here? Do I divide my time? Do I keep just moving straight forward and let the answers come to me? I do rely a lot on listening to my intuition, my heart, and I take it very seriously, just like you. It's like I respect the people who've been with me on this journey. I want to make sure that I can continue to serve. What am I called to serve at a higher level? Like, what is it that is needed of me now? And I think that with everything we've been through the last few years have been extraordinarily challenging, especially after 2020. People are craving community. They're craving in-person. They're craving creativity and making and whatnot. and you're poised to do that. You have 2 decades or more of having taught, and now you're teaching in person again, and you
Yes,
have just really these lovely opportunities to connect on a very soul level. So I see that your service is continuing. It's just changing a little,
it's
but your
changing.
service is
Yeah.
very much changing back to maybe even where your roots were in the very beginning.
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought that up because I think there was a switch that just sort of it just changed for me in September of
Yeah.
last year, 2022. And the reason for that was I was teaching in person at a retreat. It was a very small, intimate retreat. I hadn't taught in person since 2018. I didn't feel ready. There was all the issues with COVID and everything, so it really just didn't happen. And after I taught at that retreat, I just took away something that just in my heart, I felt like, oh my gosh, I need more of this. I need more community. I need more creative connection with those that are doing what I love and me helping. It was just, and the part that made it amazing too was that every student I had in the 2 classes I taught were new to mixed media. I was blown away. It was like,
Wow.
oh, it was just like, oh my gosh, it was so fun and so rewarding and satisfying for me. And it just, I think it planted that seed during that time where I came back and I was like, oh, I want more of that.
Yeah.
I want that community. I want collaboration. These are some things I really want to focus on going into the new year and where things are going for me. And do I have an answer to say, here's what I got planned? Not exactly. I'm still working it out, but I know I'm going down that road now. So, but that's where it started, which was just a few months ago.
I know. See, it's amazing how each little journey in our life will like take us into a new direction, spark new
Yes.
ideas. And really, honestly, sometimes I think it's uncovering what was underneath all along. And I totally agree with this like spark of watching the spark in someone else is like the most exciting thing. With some of the programs that I've released in this last year, when I hear back how much it makes a difference in people's lives, I think as artists, we forget that when we are building a business, putting stuff out there, it's not just for ourselves. Yes, we have to do what lights us up, but when we're doing this, we're actually in amazing service to others.
Yeah.
People need what we're offering, whether it's beautiful art or it's lessons in art or it's how to build your art business or any of the other things along that line. Like creating a business is actually one of the most amazing things you can do because you're really connecting people. And that's been my favorite part. Like I never feel lonely or bored because I get to talk to people like you on a regular basis and my customers and whatever coaching program that I'm in. And like yeah, I'm craving in person as well. Like, I really know that that's an important factor moving forward. Our our hearts and souls ache for it after everything.
Yes.
You know, we realize how important it was. I'm so glad that we could keep our families safe. You know, I know that I have family members that would not have weathered so well with having gotten COVID in that first year. But now we're at this point where, great, now we're ready. We realize the value of it again, and you're offering that. One of the other ways you're collaborating, I'm really excited about. And I want you to tell everybody about your new little audio summit that's coming out.
Yeah, the other thing that I love is podcasting. I've had a podcast in the past with a fellow art friend, and I was a little hesitant to continue it on my own. And I wasn't sure I was comfortable at the time interviewing and doing interviews because it's a big commitment. And I wasn't sure, but I do love listening to podcasts and I love doing a podcast. So I created a private audio podcast for myself, for just so people can listen to, me basically. But then I got to thinking, what can I bring to the community of creatives in this way? And I decided to create what is called the Create and Thrive Audio Summit. So what is an audio summit? Basically, rather than doing videos where you sit and watch all the videos, you will just have it delivered by audio. And so I'm calling it the Create and Thrive Audio Summit because it's going to reach creatives, artists, makers, but I'm going to do it by season so that there will be a topic that'll be different each time we do it. And the first one is launching on the 20th of January. I'm so excited. And it's called the
Really
Art.
right around the corner. That's why we wanted to make sure you were on
Yes.
the podcast in enough
Yes.
time
And I
that
thank you
all
for
the
that.
listeners can come and join. And the best part is
It's free.
it's
that's always great. And the topic for this one is so timely. It's the art of gathering and teaching. So there's
free.
7 interviews with industry leaders in teaching online, in person, doing retreats, art memberships, teaching overseas. I mean, we're covering, I think, all of the things that relate. There's great tips. There's experiences, those things that they've learned along the way, and it's invaluable. If you're wanting to even start down that road of teaching in any form, this will be really beneficial for you to listen to. So I'm just really excited about
I'm
it.
so excited. It almost gives me chills because I'm like, the art of gathering and teaching, like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's gorgeous. You really come up with a beautiful, gorgeous idea, and it's so perfect. Like, I love listening to podcasts because there's something very intimate and close. And with a podcast, I can keep my hands busy doing other things. So, for all you makers out there, this is a really nice opportunity to continue to create while listening to something inspiring.
Right.
Sometimes I'm cooking while I'm podcasting. Sometimes I'm putting a puzzle together, or
Right. Yeah.
working on little doodles in my art journal, whatever it is. I love that connection that I feel with the person who's talking. And so I'm really excited because you've already given me the lineup. So where can everyone go to sign up? Do you have that, or shall we just put it in the show notes?
We'll just put that in the show notes. We'll pause this a second. I have to remember what the name of it is. You can bring this in, so we'll
Yeah,
cut that part out. The link, we'll add it to the show notes. Okay, but the link is robenmarie.com/summit. And
easy.
that's easy. And that's the sign up page. So there'll be a period of time where registration will be open, and then you can sign up for that. And it's delivered through a podcasting app. And so once you've downloaded the audio files, basically the summit, you'll be able to listen to it anytime you want to. And the
Yeah.
cool thing is there'll be another season. And so you'll get access to that one as well. So I'm just so
Oh, I
excited. I
love
don't
it.
know what the next topic is yet, but I'm working on some ideas. So yeah.
I love it. So you're going to be able to infuse all the creatives out there with, inspiration on a seasonal basis.
Yeah.
So what a beautiful way to create the podcast experience in a whole new way. I love it, and you definitely are inspiring me to consider audio summits sometime in the future. So I have to ask you a little bit about some of the challenges of being an entrepreneur. We've talked about the ups and downs and needing to change along the way. And then just one of the things that I'm really interested in learning more about, those who are in business, those who are entrepreneurs. I'm very much obsessed, if you will, about the entrepreneurial journey and how people, thrive in business. It's fascinating to me, and which is why I'm teaching more and more coming in this year and in the years future to really help with marketing and brand strategy. But I love going back to the early years and seeing where that golden thread is, how everything connects together and how you ended up here. Now, we've heard a lot over the last 20 years. This has been part of your journey, but do you have any inkling from childhood that this is where you would end up?
That's a great question. Creatively, yes. I was that kid that would be like, Mom, Dad, see this, whatever, I want this, whatever it is. I want this craft kit. I want this latch hook rug kit. I want this painting kit. It's summer camp. I was always in the craft hut. Like the creative part of it, yes. But I was also someone who was mindful of, I guess back then I didn't realize what it was, but it was that working for myself, the entrepreneurial spirit that you mentioned. I was the Girl Scout who got out there and sold the most cookies. I was the one raising money for the skate-a-thons for whatever nonprofit. Like back in the day, these were things you did. Selling the candy bars for the school. Like there was always things I was doing. I was in eighth grade. I decided our school needs to have a dance. So it's like, how can we plan this dance and make money at it as well, selling candy and sodas and things. And then I went to the principal and said, here's what I want to do. Here's my proposal. I don't look backing on that now. It's like, yeah, those were very much things of that mind going, okay, maybe it wasn't a business, but it was that take an idea and implement it and make that happen. I babysat. In college, I typed up term papers. Football players were my best source of revenue. Like there was always something in the background of, okay, I don't know. I look back now and I think, it was always there. Whatever in those little bits, like you said, that thread of, okay, it's there. Yeah.
It's there. It was always part the creativity. And then
Yeah.
what I hear that maybe you don't hear is that you like to connect people, because
Mhm.
who would create a school dance if you didn't want to create a party for everyone to be able to have fun? Like,
I
that's
think back on that now and I
amazing.
just think, oh my gosh, that was hilarious. But yes, I mean, it was just like, it was almost like the whole thing with the stamp company. We need to have a school dance. All right, let's plan it. And then I got my friends together and like, let's go talk to the principal. Let's make it happen. Here's our presentation of what we're proposing. Roll
How
it.
did
And
the school dance turn out?
oh, it was awesome. And then we did it again that was seventh grade. Then we did it again in eighth grade. So we did it 2 years in a row. So seventh and eighth grade. It was a blast. I mean, I had to hire the DJ. I mean, it was like all those things just came together and it was so amazing. Yeah.
I
I
love
totally
it. Yeah, you can see those connections too. And I love thinking about that golden thread because those journeys and experiences of our life, even something as simple as discovering stamps and scrapbooking and teaching, and that leading you on to the next path. For those who are listening, the whole idea behind the golden thread and what I call creative core mapping is looking at those experiences, those journeys, the things that you're passionate about, the people that you've met along the way, the things that you've been able to do, the clues are in your life, you know? And so you can see why probably the tech Makers Tech U was so right for you at the time that you were creating it, because you knew you were great with tech all along. But I see a thread of connection for you, and you are a very giving spirit, and I've always loved that about you. Is just, I know, like, your enthusiasm, your willingness to be there, just how much you encourage other artists. Like, I'm in awe, in all honesty, that you've pulled off the 100-day project. How many years in a row now?
I think it's six
Are you
now.
going to do it again this year?
Here's the thing. I don't even know when it's supposed to start. The date hasn't been released, but I am brainstorming what I want to do. I wasn't sure I wanted to, but I think because I've now made this transition to focus more on art and get back in there, this is the perfect thing for me
Lead
to
it.
do now, to be like, this will help guide me in that. And I won't feel as stressed trying to do it.
Right.
But yeah.
When it comes to showing up for your business, this is one of the most important things, the consistency. And that's one of the reasons why the 100-day project is fabulous, both for the maker who's going to grow as a maker, and then also from the business point of view. So for all of you who are ready to jump in and start your own business, or you've been in business for a while, these organic ways of being seen and heard are unbelievable for how things catch on fire that way. Like, it just spreads. So I love the 100-day project. I've gotten to like day 80 before, and that's it. So I've never completed it. I'm not sure if I'll have the chance to do it again this year, but I love watching you through that journey. And I do know that repeat of doing something regularly really does create kind of its own buzz and following. Is there anything else that you can talk about that you've done or tried that has made a difference in bringing attention to your business? The
Well,
marketing side of it, the brand strategy side of it, which is always kind of my favorite part to talk about.
yeah, and your favorite, not my favorite. In fact, I go to you for advice because I know that people say, "Oh, you do fine," and all of that, but I think it's just maybe you're so close to something that you don't see the bigger picture often. But I think for me, in answering your question, and this isn't revolutionary, but it's consistency. And
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how many times I've said that to my membership. My members say you have to be consistent. It can't, now you don't have to sacrifice in your life to show up on Instagram every day, 10 times a day. It's just being consistent for that community that you've created, that those people that want to be in your, I say your circle, but they want to be a part of what you're doing. You've got to be consistent in that. And it's okay to change, and it's okay to pivot and move, but being consistent, email lists, sending out newsletters, and talking to your whoever is following you. It's just being consistent is so important. And really just being who you are, not trying to be the person that you see on Instagram that looks like they're being really successful, so you have to do what they're doing and be them. Be who you are, because that's what
Mhm.
attracts people to you and brings them into your orbit. It's you. There's people are doing art classes, people are doing all the things. That's not new and revolutionary, but you are unique and you're different. And that's what you bring to your community and those that you want to have be a part of that. So it's not this mind-blowing advice, but it's consistency and just being who you are. And will you have times where you're like, I'm a poser? Can I tell you how many times I've said that to my husband? I have no idea what I'm doing. They're going to see through it and go, what? And we joke around about it, but it's true. We were just talking about this. You get nervous when there's something you're getting ready to do, even though you've done it a bazillion times and you're confident in it. There's still those times where you're going to feel like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So from an entrepreneur to all of those listening, you are going to feel that way, and it will not change. Like
It
even after
doesn't
all
really
these years,
go away.
doesn't go
A
away.
couple decades into it, and you're still like, I'm getting on to record this episode with you. And I'm like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm probably going to be sweating right through my clothes. Like, you're like, what? You're nervous? Yes.
Exactly.
Because there's always that moment where you're like, oh, I'm just faking it. I don't know what I'm doing it. But you know what? You do when you
Yep.
just trust yourself and listen. But your advice is golden. And I would say it's like the number one most important thing. And you're right. That consistency and showing up as who you are over and over and over again for decades, even if you change and grow and evolve. Oh my goodness, there's nothing that's going to build your business more than that. I agree.
Well,
Thank
and yeah, oh, you're welcome. I do want to say one more thing, because if you are not being you, you will get exhausted and you will not be
you.
able to, you just can't do it. And don't think that you don't have something to offer, because you do. Every one of us is unique. Find whatever that is and then
Look
let
at
it
your
grow.
golden thread and see
Right.
your life experience and all the things that you bring to the table.
That's right.
Exactly. And that's what people want to be there for,
Yeah,
is you.
that's right.
I know that's why people show up for you, Roben-Marie.
And you as well, Kellee.
Thank you
I
so
always get excited when we have a scheduled call, and I'm like, I get so excited to get to talk to Kellee today. And my
I
husband's like,
know.
I'm like,
Because
oh,
we have fun when we chat, and we've
thank you.
been like, it's been so great. Like, all the tech things, and you've given me advice of which software to use and which apps are going to be able to help me. And then I get to sit and like brainstorm the next juicy marketing thing that you
Yes.
get to do. Things that are fun and lively and inclusive, but really make a difference in being able to grow your business. So it's been a fun journey. And this is it, everybody who's listening. You have friends in this community. We have connections we need to rely on, and it's a beautiful connection. So I just appreciate you so much. I am so grateful, not only just that you came on the podcast, but that you said yes all those years ago to being a guest in my program, and we've been able to build a really lovely friendship. So everyone, please, where can you find Roben-Marie?
Roben-Marie.com. That's easy. And I'm Roben-Marie on Instagram. And that's Robin with an E. Roben-Marie with an E. So yeah.
Robenmarie. There you go. Everyone, please. And all of the details will be in the show notes so that you can find out about the audio summit and how to find and connect with Roben-Marie. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Kellee, bye.